Debbie Arnold at Dining with Debbie, and today we are going to use up some of that pumpkin spice blend that we made up the other day. If you haven't watched that, I encourage you to go back and do that. It's certainly easy to do. And if you don't have that, then I'll tell you what to substitute here in just a little bit. We are making pumpkin spice donuts, and if you don't have a donut pan, don't worry about that. You can make them up as muffins, those little muffins, which are great for lunch boxes, or even larger muffins. You're just going to have to adjust the baking time on those. All right, we're going to start with 1½ cups of granulated sugar, and to that we're going to add in 3 whole eggs. Going to cream those together, and then we're going to add in a can of pumpkin, or 1½ cups of pumpkin if you have fresh pumpkin that you've baked or you have in your freezer or whatever. But 1½ cups of canned pumpkin. Kind of hard to talk over a mixer, so. Going to add in our pumpkin. This is probably a little bit over 1½ cups, but it's close enough. These are so delightful to make, and they're so easy. Kids love them, adults love them, and I like to make them up for treats to share with neighbors or whatever. All right, we're going to mix that up. Every time I start talking right now, every time I start talking, I cough a little bit. I think there must be something blooming right now. No. And I'm just using canned pumpkin. It's not pumpkin pie mix, it's pumpkin. Please don't get the two mixed up. Okay. To that, we're going to add in a good hefty teaspoon of vanilla. And y'all know by now, don't really measure, just pour. I measure most things when I'm baking, not so much that. And a ½ cup of oil. And this is just vegetable oil. You could use canola oil if you wanted to. I don't suggest using peanut oil or olive oil. You can if you want to, but olive oil is going to impart too much flavor, I think. All right, we're going to mix those up really well. And while we're doing that, measure out 2 cups of self-rising flour. And the self-rising flour I like to use for this is White Lily. You know that's what I use for my biscuits. White Lily is a southern soft wheat flour. It's grown in the South, and it just works really, really well in our climate and in our baking dishes. I do use gold medal flour, and I do use King Arthur flour, but those are about the only ones that I use besides White Lily, and I use those for different things because they do bake differently. Okay, so to our flour, we have added our 2 cups of self-rising flour. We've added a ½ teaspoon of salt, and I have added in 2 teaspoons of my pumpkin pie spice blend. If you don't have that and don't have the time to make it, but you do have cinnamon, etc. on hand, then you can use 3/4 teaspoon of cinnamon, 1/4 teaspoon of ground ginger, and 1/4 teaspoon of ground nutmeg. Again, that's 3/4 teaspoons. I can't get that out. 3/4 teaspoon of cinnamon, 1/4 teaspoon of ground ginger, and 1/4 teaspoon of ground nutmeg. Okay, we're going to get those, and I'm going to stir those up just a little bit. Don't you just love my little wooden spoon? It's actually a measuring spoon. Okay. I'm going to add these in slowly to our batter. top it, and we're going to spray it down the sides, just to make sure we get all of that flour incorporated. You can absolutely do this by hand if you prefer. In fact, I don't want you to overbeat the batter. It makes the donuts tough and the muffins tough. So, here we go. I have tried making my own canned pumpkin before, and I admire people who do that. It is a process to do it. And since I don't raise my own pumpkins, I don't even try anymore. I'm anxious to know how available pumpkin is going to be this year. You know, I use a lot of it, and then that pumpkin bread that we made not too long ago. All right, we have our batter all mixed up, and now we're going to add it to our donut pans. And like I said, if you don't have donut pans, you don't have to go buy one just for this purpose. I use this little scoop right here for to put the batter in the donut pans. It's just so much easier, and I don't spray the pans until right before I'm going to use them, because if you do, then it settles or runs, and you don't get, it just doesn't cover as well. And remember that when you're doing cakes as well, I think. Okay. We've got our oven preheated to 350 degrees. It takes just a little over one of these scoops, and this is a tablespoon and a half scoop. They come in lots of sizes. I have a big one that I use when I'm making muffins or even making pumpkin bread. And I have one that's smaller than this. But if you don't have them, they're the handiest things to have. So, obviously, I'm into the pumpkin season time. It's that time of the year. Fall is here, and I think we are all probably looking forward to it this year, especially. It doesn't take these long to cook. Probably 15 minutes or so. You just have to check them. It depends on the oven. And if you're doing those little muffins, they take about 10 minutes to do. When these come out of the oven, we're going to coat them in cinnamon sugar. But you don't want to coat them until just right before you want to eat them. It just works better that way. For some reason, the coating either doesn't stay on, or it gets absorbed into the donuts. So, golly, I'm sorry about my voice. It really sounds like I've been out yelling at cheerleading or something. My cheerleading days are long gone. Right. So, we have one pan ready to go. And I like to do that to get the air out of the batter. I'm going to put these in the oven, and then I'll be back when they're finished and show you what they look like. Pumpkin spice donuts, and y'all, you're going to want to make these this fall if you haven't already. The recipe is on my blog at diningwithdebbie.net. Pumpkin spice donuts. All right, I'll see you in just a little bit. Our donuts are fresh out of the oven, and they smell wonderful. It smells just like fall, y'all. I had enough the batter left to make a dozen of our little muffins, and they'll be great. These freeze really, really well, y'all, too. A little trick for you: when you're baking bread, like loaf bread, like pumpkin bread, banana bread, or muffins, when you take your pans out of the oven, put them on a little bit of a slant. That will keep them from creating so much moisture on the bottom and getting soggy before you take them out of the pans. I'm about to take these out because they're ready to come out. But when you're doing something like pumpkin bread loaves, let them sit on their side or slanted for just a few minutes before you take them out of the pan, and you won't have those soggy bottoms that you get. All right, our little muffins are ready. Like I said, they're great for having lunches, your lunch or your kids' lunches. You could put nuts in them if you want. I choose not to, but that's up to you. Now, one of the little tricks is you could melt the butter and dip them in butter if you want to. I just don't really see a need for that, but that's up to you. Dip them in butter if you want to, and then drop them in this sugar cinnamon mixture. We have about a half a cup of sugar to 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. You could also just use that pumpkin spice blend that we made up. But don't do this until just shortly before you're going to serve them, like I said earlier. You're going to take one of the donuts, and here, these are still nice and warm. Put that in there and coat it. You know, if you're going to serve these up for breakfast or brunch, that's perfect to do that. You don't want to sugar them too far ahead of time. You can for a few minutes, of course, but just not, you don't want to do them all and then have them sit there for a day or two. You want to eat these up in a day or two unless you freeze them, because like most baked goods, they're best when they're first baked. These are pumpkin spice muffins. You're going to find, and donuts. Pumpkin spice donuts. You're going to find that recipe on diningwithdebbie.net. Just do a search for it when you get there. Be sure and tune in again. I've got some really good fall recipes coming up for you. And I am excited to be changing seasons and changing our food sources. Looking forward to having new things coming out of the garden. I've already started planting that fall garden. I'm sure most those of you that plant gardens, you have too. Thank you so much for being here. I bless you today, and thank you so much for your sweet comments that you leave me and your encouragement. I really do appreciate it very much. Thank you, and I'll see you again soon.